Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video, IOTA, literally IOTA on the exchange. One of our favorite projects here on the Whales of Wall Street. Big portfolio holding and staking and holding on the Firefly wallet, which we're going to in a second's time. Before we do that, after this video, do check out our other videos, different variety of assets and projects and conversations going on. And always, as always, please, if you have any requests or any discussion points that you want to go through, leave them in the comments below. We read everything, we reply to everything, and we will cover that for you guys, no problem. So back to IOTA is one of my favorite projects, as I mentioned. I feel and always look at this as a technological advancement of blockchain as we know it today. This is developing the next stages. Consider it kind of like maybe Constellation, like DAG, Hedera hash graph kind of aspects here as well, and DAG being the keyword, actually, not just the name of the Constellation token, but DAG in general, of direct acyclic graph. This is my opinion, the evolution of blockchain, kind of taking that principle of making blockchain linear, but making it more of a scattergun approach, in the sense that it can divert attention, it can do things quicker, and arguably, like IOTA boast, fearlessly. And this is very important when we're looking at the way the world is going in terms of like the use of drones, for example, the use of healthcare, the use of energy, finance, everything action-wise is a transaction. I always hammer this point home in any IOTA video and when we're talking about direct acyclic graph DAG, because that is simply how it will be. Everything that you do in milliseconds, even things ahead of time in milliseconds, will be done through this kind of system. Every move, every action is a transaction. And this is why it's important that we have a system that is as cheap or as low or indeed as fee-less as possible, because of the magnitude of what will be done. For example, you have a doctor's appointment and a drone delivery of your medicine. The doctor's appointment itself, the time, the transaction of the drone picking something up and delivering it and then confirming it, all of these little actions are actions that are called transactions. This is how it will all work. So you can imagine this being very big scale, and something that needs to be very powerful and very quick. And this is what IOTA has available right now. And as I said, being one of my favorite projects, it's also one of my favorite technologies, of a couple of reasons I just mentioned now. But I do think we're in extremely early stages of DAG systems, that we're going to be laughing at this in 10-15 years time, looking back at these ridiculous prices. We'll go onto the chart momentarily, but I wanted to pick up on a couple of things that have happened recently with IOTA in the last few days. So we have, for example, the assembly token going into its third staking phase. If you haven't seen our how to stake IOTA video in order to get these assembly tokens, do check that out. I'll leave that one at the end of this video. And also, actually, to be fair, put at the end of this video the explanation video around DAG as well, so you get a bit of more of an understanding. If you're new to IOTA or you understanding DAG systems more, it's probably a really good video to check out, not just because we made it obviously, but because hopefully it goes into in depth enough for you to understand and appreciate what is to come. So we've got this going on with assembly and shimmer tokens, delivering different layers and different capabilities for IOTA moving forward. It's going to be absolutely fantastic to see that development. We covered this a lot in previous videos, so I'm not going to go into huge detail there, but the staking opportunity is available again through Firefly. Go check that video out. But the main point really about this video, this was an article from 11th of August 2022 from Gold Standard. This is grouping a few different projects together, the likes of Cosmos in there as well, and a couple of other projects and companies around the world, very much around defining the future of digital carbon market. Now, we talk about this a lot in the likes of the videos of Energy Web Foundation and Power Ledger, for example, which are fantastic systems in themselves, also utilizing things like the relay chains of Polkadot, and things like this. But for me with IOTA, as I said about the evolution of blockchain, it's almost like this could be a step ahead. The way we transact and monitor things in the digital concept of energy. Now, energy is traded via like carbon credit, if you like, through wholesalers. This is where we take the productivity of energy creation, whether it be a power plant or solar panels, whatever it might be. And then a wholesaler broker tends to buy these as units and sell them to the grid or the networks. So for example, here in the UK, the national grid, and then passed on to the likes of, for example, the terrible companies like Southern Electric, E.ON, EDF, all of these, and who then portray the prices as well that we get on top of this. So when you're looking at your high bills at the moment, you can actually Google this and see a full breakdown of where this cost is coming from. And actually, the energy companies, yes, they make a lot of money. And yes, we're getting more and more privatization in this sector. You see last year when we covered the video about all the minor independent energy companies disappearing and all of a sudden being bought out by the bigger companies like Shell and EDF, etc. So you've got this component. Then you've got the wholesale brokers who are basically creating the standard rates and the carbon costs based on supply and demand, supposedly supply and demand. I don't believe this for 1 second. They're the ones also making a lot of money. And then, of course, the productivity, which is understandable. Like, we can't do everything for free, right? But what always confuses me is this aspect of renewable energy. Okay, so yes, of course, there is a cost to convert this energy into electricity or some form of power for you to use at home or in the workplace, right? I understand that, but renewable energy is also something that is in abundance, right? Sun, solar, tidal, all of these things. And yes, we are getting more and more farms. We're getting more wind farms, solar farms, tidal productivity in big rivers and big dams and things like this. Okay, so it's a work in progress. I remember when I was a kid, I saw the first prototypes of wind turbines. I'm not even joking. I was at a big event back in the day. I think it was before Kinetic and Dera here in the UK, where my dad used to work. I was fortunate enough at the age of like 7 or 8 or something crazy, being able to go to a trade event, like as you do as an 8-year-old, and literally learning about the future. There was the thrust car, if you remember, the big thrust land speed car at the time. And yeah, this big environment scaled map thing with all these 3D models and turbines, and everyone's like, what on earth is this? And this is like the future of energy, renewable, blah, blah, blah. The cost was obviously extremely high at those times for prototypes, but the development has occurred, and it's taken like 20 odd years, maybe even longer, to come to this current stage that we're at. But in the background, we also have to understand the development of demand. How many people are going to be using all this stuff, and how are we going to keep switching from the archaic systems like coal and things like this into the new systems more and more. And each of these costs through a transaction, of course, and the movement of energy. There's an argument to say a lot of energy is lost through broken pipes, leaking pipes, or these kind of things across the world. But we come back to this fundamental point about monitoring and feasibility and legitimacy of costs and transparency within this sector, of which there really isn't any. Now, we supposedly have these things like Ofgem. I think that's a UK one, or maybe it's worldwide, I'm not sure. But all these kind of like regulators. And I always wonder what they do. Like the financial ombudsman here in the UK is to help people who have issues with finance companies and stuff like this, who are maybe not following the rules of the FCA and other financial bodies. But with Ofgem and the likes of this, you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, how are they allowing this to happen? We've got all these big companies like Shell and BP portraying their multi-billion dollar profits every month or every quarter. And yet we're sitting here with bills going up significantly every month. And we're going to have a big hike here in the UK in October again as well. So I'm scratching my head. I'm not necessarily angry. I'm focusing my anger and attention in this subject into trying to find solutions to this. Okay, I'm not saying IOTA and particularly Gold Standard are the exact solution, because there's a multitude of projects out there, as we just mentioned a few earlier, that are working towards this not necessarily a carbon-free world, but but certainly something that's a lot fairer and just to all of us. And the ability to share wasted energy or surplus energy with each other, make some money out of it as well, and become what they call a prosumer rather than a consumer, i.e. Instead of just continuously taking things out of the energy system for yourself, if you've got a surplus energy through your generator or your systems locally, you can pass that on to other communities or other people around the world through carbon credits. It's a crazy way to think about it, but this is how energy has always worked. You are essentially buying and utilizing carbon credits. It's like thinking of like having a top-up card of energy constantly. It's just that we pay by direct debit and we just see an end value result every month in our bills. So when you dissect all of this and you take it back and you strim it back to the fundamental principles of how all this works, it's exactly the same principle. It's just done in a different way through digitalization and things like KYC, the monitoring, the transparency through the likes of blockchain, based on exact definitive data and analytics to determine what the real cost should be. This is where the transparency kicks in, and we can start fighting back saying this is not what the prices should be. You're making money. Everyone wants to make money, understandably, but there comes a point of greed and the magnitude of this greed, and it's been going on for too long. I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm sick and tired of people struggling. This is 2022. This is madness that we have these situations with our bills, with our inflation, with our hikes. And mark my words, on this channel, right here, right now, and I've done it many, many times on this channel, the solutions are already here. They know the solutions are all here. They are creating these problems to bring in a new system, be the hero, then bring in an extra control mechanism. Everything, finance, healthcare, support, energy, fuel, everything will be on blockchain. The deciphering question will be of answering is decentralized or centralized, and I guarantee to you the centralized machine is working in the background. If you're seeing news about fuel and blaming Russia and all this, and granted it has a part to play, but in the UK here we don't get majority of our energy from Russia. It's just all about the supply and demand mechanism in the background and the carbon credits and the opportunists out there who are in carbon trading to go, oh, I'm going to have this as an excuse and rise the prices. It needs to stop, and it needs more and more people to get educated around how energy works, how it's supplied, how it's financed, and understand then, why am I paying this? And then understand the new solutions that are coming with the likes of blockchain, and then you need to decide which way do we want to go. They talk about off-grid as like a theory or a strange thing to do, but it is plausible and possible right now to do it, and indeed even integrate the likes of Web3 technology and infrastructure. We just need to keep the education going. You will not learn about this at school, university, anything like this. You have to find it out for yourself. Go and find some specific courses in Web3, specific courses in the evolution of energy sector, and you will get your answers, and you will understand what you can do in your life to better it. We have control and power more than we think. This is a bit of a lecture and a bit of a rant, but it has to be said because the answers are here. They're in front of us. We're investing. If you're sat here talking about or listening and investing in the likes of IOTA Energy, Web Foundation, Power Ledger, and some of these other amazing projects, you're investing already in the solutions. So why not use these solutions now yourselves, or at least understand them a bit better to plan ahead? Because these bills aren't going anywhere. These hikes aren't going anywhere. The governments aren't going to change their minds. The companies aren't going to either, and neither are the traders. It's down to us. We can't keep blaming others or asking for help from, well, it's obviously okay to ask for help if you need it. But what I mean by this point is asking the government to change things. They're not going to change anything. This path has already been in place for decades, especially since Agenda 30 was signed by over 150 countries in 2015 for the climate agenda to be hit by 2030. 2025 will see the big infrastructure, the new infrastructure of finance, and mark my words, the climate agenda will be significant, and it will go probably towards potential climate lockdowns and all sorts of other things as well in the years to come, because that is what's developing. There is a problem, a significant problem in this world, But mark my words, they're not helping to do this. We, the people, have to do it. We have to try and fix our own world. We have to try and fix our own bills. It's simple as that. The faster you know these factual truths, the faster you can adapt and defeat the system. Simple as that. Guys, let's go into the chart. My rant's over. Hopefully it makes sense. I'm very passionate about the space that we're in. Very passionate about what I do in Web3 and blockchain, especially in gaming. But in general, the solutions and the answers are here. We just have to take advantage ourselves. Don't wait for others to do it for you. They're not going to do it. Guys, IOTA at the moment, performance-wise here on the right-hand side, 8% down on the week, not too bad. 7% still up on the month, which is really good to see. And look at this, the 3-month is nearly edging towards a green as well, and the 6 months is slowly but surely dragging out. This proves in a way that we're still a long way away from the big heights of IOTA in the longer term, but also offering a great opportunity at these current areas. Now I'm just going to drag my fib levels across here. Someone asked in the recent XCC video, can you go through some selling strategies? And I will definitely do a video about that, both on a fib retracement level and a couple of other data algorithms that I use as well. But for now, we're looking at these pinpoints here on a macro level, taking the most recent drop point and one of the recent high points here as well. And this gives us some definitive data as to where we are exactly with our movements. Now I'm just going to see if I can remove this orange line. In fact, I'm going to leave that in there for a second. This is from the last video, and we made it clear that this is actually probably a really good area to learn about support and resistance. And look at this as well. We saw this on a number of occasions. I can't remember when the last video was of IOTA. Let me just double check. I think it was, wow, it was 4 weeks ago. Okay, so 4 weeks ago was the last time we did this video. And that's when we drew this line in and we mentioned about this point. So we go back to, for example, 24th of June, which I think is within this 4-week period. We mentioned about the significance of this area. Why? Because of history. We talked about these touch points back here in 2020 and the big black hole we had here, which meant that we're going to come down at some point anyway. If you understood the charts, people think about bear markets as significant situations around the world. Of course it is, but it's also dependent on the actual cycle itself. And you can see clearly here that it was too much to handle. It's come all the way back down. We have all these touch points across this orange line that we drew in the previous video. And hey presto, one here, rejected fortunately down here. Got some support here, but again rejected. So you can see it's like a magnet, and right now we're touching this point. I bought some IOTA manually today, literally about an hour ago at this point, because I knew that it was a significant potential support area, but also a potential resistance area. So from the DCA dollar cost averaging perspective, this is where you don't dump all your money in just because you got paid straight away. It's about assessing the market and going, right, I'm going to have to buy at different stages and remove the opportunity for bigger risk situations. So you're basically just being more consistent and more thinking process in your mind to when you're investing. So I've bought one in here. I've got some buy orders at the lower regions still as well at here. And also just in the middle. I don't usually always go for the specific lines, but I've got one just slightly lower, under 30 cents as well. Okay, because as I said, we're approaching this 30-cent mark. It's touching back on here in these previous points. And if you do hit these support lines, what tends to happen is you have a drag down, whether it be slightly under, which is where I have the trigger point. I think it's about 2.87 or something, which is round about more so this line, and then if it comes this line, it could trigger back down depending on how bullish people are, right? It depends on how many people are like, no, I don't want it to come back down, and if there's enough investment in there, it will keep it floating up. So that's why you have this, and this is basically the DCA dollar cost averaging perspective, is taking opportunities, whether it be limit orders or manual, keeping an eye on it regularly to identify areas to purchase at. If they don't hit, it's fine, because you're buying at these nice areas anyway, and if it goes all the way up, you're making money. So you're in a win-win situation. You're just, as I said, removing the risk factor as much as possible. There's always risk still either way, but like it is reducing it significantly. It's been certainly a strategy I've been using for a long time and working for sure all the time as well. So they're my buy areas. Selling, I'm not selling IOTA at all until at least 2025. It's staking for me for assembly tokens at the moment, and it will sit in my Firefly wallet. As I mentioned earlier, do check those videos out, how to stake, and also about the DAG system in general. But this is where we are at. So currently, based on the data here of the MACD and where we are on the RSIs, we've got here on a 14-day close at the moment, 46. So this is approaching really good buy areas, in my opinion, and that's why I did one this morning. If it comes back lower, down to like 42, 41, I do see that's where it will probably hit around that sort of 27 cent mark. That's going to be a significant area as well. Like I said, don't jump in fully. You might just want to put a percentage of your available stable coins or whatever you have into those kind of areas. It's not financial advice, just opinion based on what I do personally. 28 days showing 49 as well. I'm not going to look at the 90 days, pointless right now, but 49 on the 28 days, pretty much middle ground. And again, just identifying the point that this is a good area to put in a small chunk potentially, but also just wait a bit longer just in case we pull ourselves down a bit more. And we can use these identifiers for sure, these indicators, as confirmations. We're in a bit of a sell-off here. A third day of increase in selling, not huge. It could be a similar repetitive pattern to back here in May, or indeed something even smaller back here in June. I don't think there's going to be big sellers of IOTA because you've got a lot of stakers out there, and people are just generally trying to accumulate this project as much as possible in their portfolio. We have gone into a bit of a bear mode. The switch over on the MACD, as you can see here, on, I believe, literally kind of between 15th and 16th of August. So that's why I'm thinking of these lower areas potentially coming in, because I don't think this will just go overnight. I think it'll be just a gradual thing. Like I said, could last a few days, but just got to be cautious of all the options that are available to us and coming. So that is where we are at with IOTA. I'll do an update video on this one next week or early next week to see how this played out. That's my opinion. I think we'll have a few more days of a selling off period. But if you look here, for example, the last sell-off period, the one we had here, which was a very minor one, for example, 12th of June, switched back on the 20th of June. So it was a good 7 days. So I anticipate something fairly similar, not just because it's there, but I feel like, that's just how it works. We're approaching the end of the month as well. So paydays will be coming in for people, and you might see that switch over a bit quicker. You all got to understand and think about all the things that happen around the world and how people react, how people behave. When you get paid, you always think, I must put a percentage of that in my investments. And that's when you sometimes see a bit of a trigger up, usually around the 20th and also the end of each month. Have a look. It always seems to happen that way. So guys, I'm going to wrap that IOTA video up here. Hopefully you learned something or found something interesting. Do leave some comments below. And also, as I said, any requests that you may have for future videos or topic discussions, always leave them requests in the comments as well. We will always get to them, and we will always try to do our best to do the videos as soon as possible. Guys, we'll leave that there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next IOTA video. Bye-bye.